Thank you very much, Graham. So with great pleasure, I will introduce Gillian Jerome with an abbreviated biography. So she is a mother, writer, and teacher who gratefully lives on the traditional territories of the... Pardon? Gillian is a mother, poet, writer, and teacher who lives gratefully on the traditional territories of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. And although she didn't want me to list books and awards and so forth, she does have her brand new latest book here with her. I will be buying a copy at the end of the reading. Without further ado, I will turn over the floor to you. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. So I'm going to be reading this evening from my new book called Nevertheless, a book of walking poems. It was published in the spring. Yeah, I'm going to begin with a poem called Illuminations. I did want to say, though, before beginning my reading tonight, so it's a book of walking poems, and I just wanted to say something about the privilege of the relative freedom to walk. And I'm thinking in particular about women in Iran right now who are so bravely walking in protest without hijab. After the 22-year-old woman Mahsa Amini was killed. So this is called Illuminations. And it's about a hike in the Squamish Valley at a place called Deeks Lake. We started coatless up the old logging road to Deeks Lake. Not much more sound than our footfalls. Found a waterless pond filled with sand and silvery trunks and walked on softly up into the woods past waxy rows of salal and goldenrod. Wherever they could, the girls spotted sun on wood and rested a while inside the smell of balsam and fir. We saw scars in the trunk, photographed weird fungus, fit the tips of our fingers with salmon berries, felt the smoke from the summer's abominable fires ghosting us, finally. We walked up into the switchbacks, covered in pine needles, rocks, endless roots exposed, polished by boot soles. When the trail grew steeper and greener, I listened for water tinkling over rocks like glass prayer beads rattling up against each other. And later, the closer we walked to the top, the more the water gathered its loose sounds into a roar and erupted down the rocks. When we saw the bewildering Deeks Lake, finally, alpine lake surrounded by rocks, surrounded by woods, surrounded by water, we put our packs down and waded into water, so cold it was painful. I dove in and under and ambled back up onto a rock where I sat for elongated minutes in the quiet lake, glimmering in the gold-green August light. Somehow we swam, ate, dried off, and dressed again. On their way out of the mountain lake, the two girls turned their shirts up into baskets and filled them with wild blueberries they plucked from the bushes. For a moment, I watched the other girl, not mine, standing on the path and the rudolent light, her hair almost aflame, her hands inside a ball of light. One hand holding her shirt, the other inspecting a single berry and then bringing it to her mouth. Later that evening, she told me quietly about the first blood she found on her underwear, dark miracle of beginnings and fire, the world blooming inside her. So I am going to read some poems I haven't read publicly before. The book is made of walking poems and odes. And when I launched the book in Victoria and Vancouver and Toronto, I tended to read the odes. I'm going to read more of the walking poems this evening. So this is a poem called The Messenger, and The Messenger was written after a long walk in Stanley Park with my partner, Tom Green, followed by a collaborative creation of the French collaborative poem, the Xʷməθkվəy, which we made spontaneously after breakfast at the Greenhorn Cafe on January 24th, 2020. And it begins with the epigraph, "My name comes to me like an angel." That's from Thomas Tranströmer, the name. Your name comes to me like morning light wavering on the water, like a plate of butter biscuits, like butter, like a bicycle in flight. Your name comes to me like the fuchsia shirt and shimmering copper pants you put on after we woke up this morning before sunrise and danced in your living room, and all the dreams of my childhood came back to me. Like the ravine we grew up in, like the creek water that ran through it, like rivulets popping out of rock, like clay bursting open. The earth gives us so much. This morning's foggy walk through xʷməthkվəy under cedars, the ocean water we dip our hands into, the salt on my fingers. The flock of Barrow's golden-eyed ducks who flew together just above the water at Third Beach this morning, flying like dancers in unison. The coyote who appears before us, who is part wolf. He looks at us like family. He looks out for us like family. At night, after we fall to sleep together, we come here like dancers, like wolves who are part coyote. In our dreams, we clean up the microplastics. In our dreams, we restore the reindeer. We travel north in solidarity. In our dreams, the brown bodies, the black bodies, the children in prison here and yonder go free. In our dreams, the ebullient silver bodies come back as salmon. The coral is beautiful again. In our dreams, not all the birds return, but our home is the aviary, is the apiary, is the open sky. Your name comes to me like the birch tree I climbed each day of my childhood, like all the daytime reveries I was punished for, reveries so delicious now that we're free. When the children come, they come as clowns, they come as pirates, their booty is butterflies. They ride their ponies, they wear crowns of peonies. Your name comes to me like my father's gentleness speaking to us from the cedars. Like a black oyster catcher eating a limpet. Like a black oyster catcher whose red luminous beak calls to us this morning against this backdrop of gray. Like a glass-bottom boat. Like a pod of orcas swimming in the seas that need healing. Your name comes to me like an utterance, like a half-conscious trip to the toilet in the middle of the night, like the textures proffered by your testicles in my hand. In another life, we rode a starship together. We rode a steamship. I wore a bonnet briefly. We eschewed the gold rush and the gold. In my dream, you poured ambrosia over my head with a ladle, and I lasted. What I thought was wrong with me was not wrong. What you thought was wrong with you wasn't wrong. Will you try to stay open to me like an egg? You know of my body's coldness, you know my thin blood. Sometimes in our sleep, you wrap my body in your body. Sometimes your heart's a wavelength, the only arrhythmia of the night. Sometimes I dream that you're catching a fish to feed us. Sometimes I feel the fire that belongs to us all. At night, I dream you're braiding my hair, and the wolves come to keep us company, and their breath smells like fire, like honey. Between my green eyes, between your green eyes, so much moving in unison, so much laughter and fumbling and endless coconut butter. Your name comes to me like the sound of pirate children playing in the boat, like the first light of my girls, like their pink faces, like the vernix they wore like coats, like the silence we swim in that sounds like love. Walking in Strathcona, right in front of the Georgia Viaduct on Union Street, 4 Black women walk toward me laughing. And I think of Hogan's Alley, a whole community razed to the ground for this ugly, soon to be dismantled viaduct. Demolition, the trope of this city's history. I sit myself down at the Wilder Snail where bluegrass plays. People writing, people working, people talking about work. Sign says restrooms for consumers only. Tampons 99 cents. Here you can buy Avalon milk by the bottle, plus a guide to being a green mama. At the park, a man talks to himself. A woman lays herself down in the grass. Kids run through the sprinklers, dump buckets of water on each other. A man sharing the bench with me smokes a joint. A woman chews on a chicken wing. Further on, a boy carries his cat, half the size of his body, homeward. Okay. I'm going to read a poem for fall. Here we are, acoustic showing. September night, cool air. Sound of a distant siren floats in. Cars emerge like fricatives and frig off to somewhere else. I've never been a boy, but oh boy, I'm buoyed by the thought of a cock like a beautifully wrought ampersand. Finally, the rain pours down, a cold rain, and my body wants wool, wants sleep in flannel sheets. Close my eyes and think of one of 2 big-bodied Williams while droplets caught by magnolia leaves tremble and fall. Coyotes cry out from the golf course. Sounds like they're seriously getting it on. I do this, I do that, while the Fraser River water moves along, the rhythm of salmon sniffing out the water for clues to get back home. So much has happened here. All the tugboats and brokering, all the men with their hooks in big trees. It's weird work, this being here together on this earth. Bless the vegans, bless the bridge builders, bless the souls among us who, like me, are as lonely as skunk cabbage. I want an electrical storm. I want a meteor shower. I want the whole fucking Milky Way to show up like swirling silver ribbons in the sky. I want a meteor hour than this, a kind of thickening, to feel a quiet queuing, to be above all as curious as words, as slippery as water, to hold the purslane in my dirty hands, to tug its lace gently from the earth and hold it up and snip each tiny leaf for eating, to be as beautiful as crickets bleeding into the pitch black night, as loving as the cedars sounding, tending, tendering, dying, and standing by. I am going to read a poem for water. In my dream, I was traveling in Tucson and watching on a TV screen 2 planes flying into a building, a tall, wide, and many-windowed Vancouver building, indistinguishable building with very important business going on inside. Sent a flurry of texts, but couldn't reach either one of my girls whose real lives are going on more or less without me. Just this morning, they fell off the couch laughing when I called Cardi B, Carby D, the comedy of aging. I'm thinking this morning about Rita, who was arrested yesterday while blocking traffic to the Kinder Morgan site on Burnaby Mountain. I went to bed with the picture of her sitting with her legs crossed on the pavement, her long black hair, shoulders wrapped in a wool blanket and cedar smoke, the elders around her singing the Tsleil-Waututh water song for protection. Even when the police read her rights, she kept quietly singing. When Athena disguised herself as Mentis to help Telemachus, she told him, "Be brave and win yourself a lasting name," and then changed herself into a bird and flew into the sky. The epic story of a man whose grand adventure was simply to go back home. All these millennia, water flows. Anthropocene brings gyres of plastic, dead fish, and coral, a seabed of bitumen and toxic spew. Whether we'll see deeply what's going on right in front of us might be the most formidable epic of all. The sign outside this cafe window says, "Oh my God, a garage sale, Saturday, August 25th at Ontario and 20th. So much commerce to cover, so many things to savor for a while and sell. So much of life asking us to move through it like water, not holding too hard nor too fast to too much." Sorry?
We're warming up here in the audience.
Okay, yeah. Okay, good. Glad to hear it. I'm reading my last poem.
Good. We'll warm up and
Yeah, just get you warmed up and then I'm gonna split. Okay, poem for, not really, I mean, I'm just gonna wrap up. Poem for Maggie. This is a poem for my friend Maggie Zeigler, who is a pioneer trauma therapist and a fellow writer. I met her when I did a symposium on walking and writing at the Banff Center for the Arts. After a few days of talking about walking, I was putting on my running shoes, wanting to pick up the pace a little. But it was lovely having artists from all over the world talk about walking. Walking out along this icy path, heading down from Sleeping Buffalo Mountain with Maggie, we're soaked in big mountain light. I wonder what my new instrument will be, this light, these legs walking me to new places, away from what doesn't matter so much, away from the old stories that emerge like big boulders blocking the river, boulders that stop things up. What is it? Walking to stay open against the fear of not having enough, the fear of another loss, the desire to protect my girls. All our lives were moving boulders so the water flows on. It's springtime on Sleeping Buffalo. Along the railway, the grizzly they call the boss meanders for grain. When the boss emerges, some folks panic, the elder says, but bears teach us how to survive. If they're good, we're good. They're here with us, Maggie, in the woods. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you very much. That was wonderful. I will remind everyone that there are copies of the newest book here tonight. Do we have any other readers on the open mic for online? We have one more person in the room.
I didn't think there would be an open mic, but I quickly wrote something while Gillian was reading.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes, come on up.
Very short. My name is Gilles, and I lead a downtown Eastside Writers Collective at Carnegie Community Center. This doesn't have a title. I just wrote it. In this, my first live poetry reading after COVID, I am enchanted at hearing, scarcely believing, human voice can be so sweet. Leading my heart again into word magic as I realize all that's right with me, as magic metaphor makes everything right again. Thank you.
Don't know about all of you, but the worst thing about taking masks off and on is they always grab my glasses. Do we have any questions for Gillian? While we have her here and having graced us with her time. Yes.
Yeah, the question. So my first poetry reading with Gillian since 2009, first book, and it's so different from the first book. I remember when I said I heard about the first book. This is the first book I struggled. Was this more abstract, if I remember correctly? And this one's so concrete and so like I'm gonna take this home to my kids. I'm gonna start writing poetry now. Yeah. So that's awesome because I've thought about this so much, but still, very different setting. The launch of your first book was so like 200 people or Main Street in 18. Very different setting, right? Yeah. And I wonder, like, and I remember somebody who introduced you said that this is a very soap. This is what did he say? He said this is a very mature book.
Oh, right.
That's what he said. Right? I wonder which of the two books is now more mature.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the second book is the book you've written maybe is always the book that is the book of experience. It's fresher in my mind, in my life, in my heart, and it's also about aging. You know?
Yeah, but is it possible that the first book is the mature one and this is the lively one? This is the
I don't think my first book is very mature.
Well, I'm just quoting somebody who's supposed to know.
Like, I think that was a misreading of my first book. I was figuring out what it was when I was the writer, what I was doing in my first book, and I don't.
Yeah, anyway, so and great.
One and then Gillian afterwards.
A dumb but obvious question to me: do you write while walking, or are they reflections on completion of a walk?
Yeah, so I take photos when I'm walking, and I take sound clips. And I do actually have a notebook with me, but it's an interesting question. Like, I actually thought, like, what if I publish some of my photos along with the poems that I wrote? There's a lot of visual and sound along with everything. So I would say both. Like, I jot notes down as I'm walking, and also I write when I get home from a walk. And sometimes I would record thoughts because I'm too lazy to write them down.
In Strathcona, one in particular, I remember sort of.
Oh,
I don't know the street, but I could picture the
yeah,
walk.
yeah.
Right. You know.
No.
Very. The urban one somehow is more concrete to me, and then in the woods, it's like, yeah, it's a wood and going with a little vignettes and cubes and things.
Yeah, I'll write down things I see. So I'll write down signs and language around me, and just often little sketches of what I'm seeing.
And Gillian.
Yeah, I have a question. But Kirsten is saying that the camera got shifted. And,
I'm trying to figure out how to turn it so it can face the audience. Maybe I can just trade spots with Gillian and then everyone online will be able to.
Okay.
And Kirsten virtual room is asking.
Sure.
Is that your first reading back from your first live reading?
This is my first public reading that's not a launch. So I launched the book in Vancouver at Massey Books in May, April, and then my middle-aged memory fails me at this moment. So launched in Vancouver and then Victoria. Victoria was really fun. We launched at a record store. I launched with Malia Acker and Shelley Liedl. Vinyl, something vinyl, Vinyl Envy. And Malia made all kinds of beautiful food and potions, and there was lots of alcohol. It was really fun. Yeah. Yeah. And then in Toronto, we had a launch/reading in Toronto, which was lovely. I read with Sana Wani, which was really nice. Yeah. Yeah, it feels nice to be among humans again. Thank you for that beautiful poem. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for inspiring.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's so nice when someone responds in the moment. Yeah, thank you.
Other questions from the audience, or any questions online? Nefertiti has a question.
Thank you so much. It was a great reading, and it just struck me. I looked at the calendar and it says it's World Gratitude Day. I'm very grateful to be amongst poets, and I wonder if you have a poem in your collection that you think would exemplify World Gratitude Day.
World Gratitude Day. Woo! Woo! The pressure. Yeah, sure. Great. Do you want me to read it?
Yes.
Okay. This is called Poem for Autumn, and it's my mother's favorite poem in my book. You came back to your life on a Saturday by walking out into the pinkish golden light. The neighborhood dog smelled you for miles and came for you, starting with a black lab called Gus, who dove right into you. A father pulled his boy's hand across the road. Everyone walking on leaves, do you hear it? The sound of things dying and splitting open. Is this not everything we're after? Each other, a particular kind of sugar in the air. The leaves on the oak trees, the color of tangerines. Has it occurred to you that you know everything you need to know to do the next thing that matters? A black dog with a graying snout told me so. My poem for World Gratitude Day. Thanks for asking, Nefertiti.
In the spirit of World Gratitude Day, we at Poets Corner are very thankful that you have come and shared your work with us. I look forward to reading more of it soon. And I think we should also thank everyone who has shown up for the first face-to-face reading. And as always, we should thank everyone online as well. As a very small note, I'll say I am very grateful that we can have a face-to-face reading. I am very grateful that we can have people from around Vancouver and across Canada turning up online to join us. And I am grateful to everyone who has shared their work so kindly tonight. Thank you all.